Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, where you can awaken your mind to clarity and success even in today's life challenges. We're here to provide insights and solutions that will help you live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hello, everybody. This is Joanne Victoria with another amazing episode of the Sanity Project podcast. The Sanity Project podcast is a place to discover a life of clarity, confidence, and success. And what do you know? Our guest today is going to talk about confidence because Savanna Schiavo is a certified life and confidence coach. Savanna works with entrepreneurs, and unlike countless business coaches who teach strategy, Savanna works with entrepreneurs who know what they need to do in business, but feel intimidated, scared, or plagued by self-doubt and impostor syndrome. We'll have to talk about what impostor syndrome is, and are therefore not taking action. So Savanna is going to give you insights and tools to help you move forward, build confidence, and do things you know need to be done so that you can help people grow dream businesses and create a real result for them. So welcome to the show, Savanna Schiavo.
Hi, Joanne. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Well, I'm glad that you are here because I certainly appreciate your topic. It's aligned with what I do, and I know the people who are listening are going to be grateful that you're here because I tell people on my Apple page that everybody that shows up here as a guest is a gift to the audience. So you are a gift to the audience. So tell people where you live.
Yeah, so I'm in Ottawa, Canada, which is, for those that don't know, that's Canada's capital. So we're in the middle of a pretty beautiful spring at the time of recording this, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Good. I don't blame you. Weather is such an issue. So why don't you give our listeners some insight as to how you got to this place today where you are giving advice to entrepreneurs on how to have more confidence in their life in order to be a success in business?
Yes, I love that question because I think so many people pursue passions and careers where they had an experience that moved them, right? So for me, I became certified as a life coach because I sought out the tools that I use and I teach with my clients in my own life. For me, I had a business. I've known I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was probably 22. I worked for the Canadian government and it just wasn't the place for me. But I felt a lot of fear, especially around entrepreneurship, about putting yourself out there, about offering something to the world and being seen in a big way. And I had a business when I was about 27. I had a small online store where I designed clothes and marketed my store to the world and sold my apparel internationally. And it was amazing and it taught me so much. But I really, really learned from that experience how much I lacked confidence and how much self-doubt was really the thing that was driving that ship. So after a year of pretty steady, overwhelm, self-doubt, fear of judgment, fear of, someone criticizing me, fear of failure, and I closed down my shop. I went to work knowing that that was where I needed to make a change, right? I think as entrepreneurs and as human beings, we're just tell me how to do the thing. Right? Tell me how to build a successful business, or tell me how to write a book, or tell me how to do this task and I'll do it. But I had those steps and I couldn't do them, right? I had everything laid out in front of me, but my own self-doubt and fear and that feeling of being a total imposter, which I know we want to talk about, really slowed me down. So I went to work and I worked with a life coach and went really to work on those areas that I could see were going to keep me from ever being successful in the things I wanted to do, whether that was business or other areas, right? I was a pretty confident person in most areas of my life, but this one area of being seen, putting yourself out there, making offers, right? That was tricky. And I was so afraid of judgment and failure that I went to work. I made huge changes in my own life. And then I later became certified as a life coach after I had really seen my own transformations from these tools, and went on to help people once I was certified. And that's how I got here. I think that's so many people's stories. It's like we have our own transformations and then we arrive here. Like, is that something that you have found in your experience as a coach?
Is that a question you're asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, would you? I thought, what is that a question? How do I answer that? What am I going to do? Did I hear her right? Okay, so I had 17 things going on at the same time. Yes, yeah. I would say that the bottom line is yes. My background is varied, and I decided to leave a successful sales background and go into self-help because I knew if I needed help, others did.
Yes.
And especially when I facilitated my first workshop with a partner at the time, who it was a surprise for me to even do that. And it was on anger, and which was a good thing for me. I still write about it. Anger, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And then it morphed into what it is today, which is variable depending upon the individual.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, right? Like the people that I think, it's the most profound to reach out and help. And I work with clients, right? As a life and confidence coach, I don't just work with entrepreneurs. I don't just work with people who are struggling with confidence. Like I'll work with people who are like, I'm really stressed out at my job, or I want a better relationship with my partner, or I'm heartbroken in this area and I want to overcome it. It doesn't mean we just work in that one area, but I think what called me to really focus on helping people with the skill of creating confidence was having so much practice in doing that for myself. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I think about like even being on a podcast. Once upon a time, my brain told me like, you will never do that. And now I'm like, I've got 2 other podcasts this month, right? It's like, it's so fascinating to watch your brain tell you these lies and learn how to overcome them. And so I love that we're talking about perfectionism today, because I think that's so rooted in, right, understanding a little bit more on how you can create confidence.
Okay. So I know perfectionism does these things, but how does it show up in people's lives? Because I don't know. I think especially women have a more difficult time, and they think they need to be perfect in whatever they do. Men may think that way, but they don't act that way. They don't share that information. So, because it's not their culture, thousands and thousands and millions of years, it's not their culture to have a lack of confidence until they hit the wall. Mm. So how does perfectionism slow down success?
Yes. I think perfectionism is such an interesting part of our society because we sort of wear it like a badge of honor in a weird way. It's like what high achieving people tend to, it's usually people that are high achieving are perfectionists. Doesn't have to be, but it's right. It's sort of equated with high achieving. It's like, you just want to get it right. You're such a high achiever. And what it really looks like, right, to know if you are a perfectionist or not is to take a look at how you do the things you do. So for me, when I was practicing perfectionism, it was like, I didn't want to put a thing out into the world before it was just right? Like it's spending a lot of time tweaking, taking a lot of time, not putting yourself or something that you've created out into the world before you can count it as like an A++, before it's perfect. right?
If I may, just one thing that I wanted to mention, and you may understand this, is that the more creative one is, the more they try to achieve perfection. Perfectionism is not necessarily a left brain problem. It's more of a right brain problem, because people don't want to stop. They continue to edit that article. They continue to change their website. They don't know when to stop adjusting a product or a thing, whatever it might be. But that is more problematic for creatives than it is for the intellectual.
That's so interesting.
Have you found that?
Yeah, I mean, here's what I think it looks like for entrepreneurs, but I think we could find like it doesn't just have to be for entrepreneurs.
Oh no, right? No, not at all.
Totally creatives are people that could do that, right? I don't want to put my art into the world, right? For entrepreneurs, it's like maybe it's like trying to find the exact right wording for their offer or for their copy before they put it out, right? Taking a really long time to write and share anything about your business, waiting until it's just ready, right? Not offering their service until they have enough education or experience. That's a really common one. It's like, I just need to get more education, right? I just need a little bit more experience, and then I'll put myself out there, right? Which has us hiding for a lot longer, right? Or it's like spending hours and hours on things that could just be done, but you're waiting to get them perfect, right? We're like, I can't submit this article, or I can't put this website out there because it's not perfect, right? And I think about like how when I'm trying to get my work and myself to absolute perfection, I just produce and show up in the most minimal ways compared to what I can do, right? Like I show up in this small way and I do so much less. I create and contribute so much less because I need it to be perfect before I put it out into the world. So as we're kind of like figuring out, right, if and for the listeners, if you're figuring out if you are a perfectionist, it's okay if these are some of your habits. Like, this is coming from someone who really practiced this. And I love the term recovering perfectionist, because I think it can be a habit that we really get into. But I think it's useful to understand what perfectionism actually is, right? Perfectionism feels like it's just us trying to do our best so we can put our best out there, whether that's our best self or our best work or, right, our best offering to the world. And it feels like we're just doing our due diligence. We're just, right, getting it done, and it's supposed to be this way. But really, perfectionism is about fear.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, I think I wrote that half a page ago. Perfectionism is totally fear-based.
Yes, right? It's about like fear of failure, of rejection, of judgment, of criticism, right? Because if we put something out into the world and we don't think it's perfect, our brain is essentially sending us the signal like, you're going to put this out there and people are not going to like it. And what's going to happen when they don't like it? Right? So we are not willing to put things out in the world because we're afraid that we'll be rejected or we'll fail, right? Or we'll be judged. So we can't put things out into the world until we feel like they're 10 on 10.
Correct.
Right? It's so fascinating, like just to understand where perfectionism really is coming from. Because that's when we can actually start making changes. We're like, oh, I'm just afraid that people are going to judge me, right? That's where we can actually like make changes. And that's the work I do with clients.
Well, give me an example of your most recent interaction with the client who you knew was a perfectionist, who was afraid of X, whatever it might be, and how you processed them away from that and towards success.
Yes. So here's a great example of perfectionist. If one of my clients working with talking about their offer, talking about what they put out into the world and offering it to other people, right? it feels like for them, I need to do this just right, because if I don't do it right, people are not going to like this. They're going to think, right, this is not legit, or right, they're not going to want it, or they're going to think, look at me, and then they're going to turn away right away. So they would spend a lot of time writing what they wanted to say, thinking about what they wanted to say. Okay, going back, tweaking, right? Every time they wanted to make offers, it would be this like super long process because they weren't willing to do it if it wasn't 10 on 10, if it wasn't perfection. So of course, they produce so much less, they show up so much less, they offer so much less, and their people see them so infrequently, right? And by people, I mean their audience, right? And all the while, it feels like, okay, I'm just doing this, right? It feels really productive, I think, right? And I think of this scenario, like it felt really productive. They're like, I'm just trying to get it right. I'm just trying to get it perfect, right? But of course, we fail in little ways all the way up to that point because we're just afraid to not be perfect. We're just afraid to have failures. So we fail ahead of time.
Yeah, well, I think you just again said it. You said you're just afraid, and fear there's only two in my world of living. There are only two emotions, and everything comes from them. One is love, and the other is fear. And everything that's not love comes under fear, and fear is in the way of everything, absolutely everything. And you're talking about how people are afraid that either they will be judged, it won't be perfect, it won't be good enough, meaning they're not good enough, they're not perfect.
Yes.
It all goes back to the individual because there is no thing, there is just you. And when you hold back from expressing yourself, not only are you keeping the world away from you. For my first article, my first book, it took me 10 years to get it published, to get it written, because I never attempted it. I took classes on how to write a book.
Yeah.
I did all that was required and it was like, couldn't put pencil to paper.
Yep.
And then the local newspaper called me out of the blue, as these things occur, to write a weekly article on business for their newspaper. It was, a pretty big newspaper. And once I started writing articles for the newspaper, I figured out that I could write. And I know that you have articles all over the place. And I think I think that's a good way to start. Not that you're a novice, but Savanna Schiavo's articles are on addictedtosuccess.com and Medium. Pardon?
Yep. So I just said I'm published over there. Yep.
And medium.com, and two places that will be beneficial for you listeners to go to, as well as, I might throw this in there right now, is confidencewithsavanna.com. Confidence with SAVANNA.com, her website address. But I think that the fear, which so many people have, especially today, about every little thing, is huge.
Yeah.
And that's why people don't attempt more than, as much as they could.
Totally. And I think it's so fascinating. This point too is what I've really been thinking about. People that are perfectionists, very much I fall into this category when I really had to look at it. People that tend to be perfectionists are usually people that beat themselves up, right? Psychologically.
Right.
Right. So we need to be, right? Those people need to be perfectionists. When I was in that state, I felt like I needed to be perfect because if things don't go perfectly, they're going to come down really hard on themselves. Right? It's like, it's a relationship issue with ourselves because we could fail or be judged or be rejected, and that could be okay. But if we know we're going to come down really hard on ourselves, of course we need it to be perfect because we're so afraid of what we're going to do to ourselves. We're going to make it mean like you're not capable, you're not good, there's something wrong with you, you'll never be successful, right? All of these things. So we have to protect ourselves by going really hard. Perfect. I can't put it out there until it's right. And it's so fascinating. And I think about, right, what, like in this scenario, what I did with this client, and this is what I suggest to my clients who are feeling stuck in here, in that area, perfectionism. And it's what my mentor offered me. When you are feeling really stuck, right, trying to overcome perfectionism, and it's keeping you stuck and stalled out and scared, commit to B-level work. And by that, I mean, when you think of like getting a test, right? And right, most of us are shooting for like the A+ on the test. And what we want to do is practice not getting the A+, not going for the A, right? Going for B. B on the work that we do, right? B-level work, right? If you got a B on your test way back when, right?
Mm-hmm.
B-level work is great work, and it gets us out there. It makes you do and not hide. It produces. It has you producing because you're not spending time spinning your wheels and hiding and tweaking and really just trying to get that A+ so you can finally feel like it's ready. You just be like, I'm at that B, let's go. So you produce so much more, right?
Like, I'm going to take that even further. Is a grade of C, which is abominable for most people, myself included, probably you as well. But C is average. A C student, a C grade is average, not bad. It's not as good as a B, certainly not as good as an A. It's average. And I think it started in the school system because they created these guides, ABC. A, you're whatever, a star. B, you want to be star. And C, you're just ordinary. And nobody wants to be average or ordinary. And I think that's part of that's a huge issue. Because even if people could come up with B work, I mean, I write pretty much a blog a day, and after a while it gets to be ridiculous. And there are times when my work is not A. A lot of times lately my work is not in the A category. Some are B and some are close to a B+, which is B-, which is as close as I'm going to willing to get to a C. But and I see what you're saying, except the B. I hope you're listening, people, because I tell my audiences to rewind and start from the beginning and listen to every podcast over and over again, because the lessons you're getting from Savanna are vital. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're an individual, whether you have your own business or work for somebody else having problems, settle for a B. And I say settle so that you accept that word.
Yeah, I think what a good example, like, of the blogs, right? I think about that, like, to the listeners who are trying to produce. Maybe you're trying to talk about your business, write a blog post, right? Market make a post online or put a picture up every day. Think about how long it takes you, right? And this is how you can practice this, is like, if you are committed to writing a blog post every day, let's say, right? Just like Joanne is right here, right? What you can do is be like, I'm going to give myself 1 hour to write this blog post, right? 1 hour. And whatever I create in 1 hour, it's going out.
Absolutely.
Right? We'll create so much more, and we won't dink around, right? We're not going to be on Facebook. We're not going to be checking our phones. We're going to be going for it.
And I would say cut the time down.
I mean, totally, right? Like, that's
an hour is a lot of time.
It seems some people are going to be listening to this being like, 1 hour? Are you crazy?
Right.
Right.
I would say cut down the time. And for me, I made it a point that very few of my posts are over 300 words.
Yeah.
Because people will read, 278 words where they're not going to read 2,178 words.
Yeah.
Who has the time and who cares?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the best thing that I've heard in a long time about, commit to B-level work.
Yes. Right. And like, imagine if we committed to B-level work in all areas of our lives, in our businesses, in what we do as parents or as friends, or right, the things we produce in the world, like it would change so much. It would impact what you say, what you produce, how you show up, how often you show up, right? And then what would happen is we'd stop hiding. We'd show up so much more. We'd speak up so much more.
Absolutely.
Right?
So what would you tell our audience the first thing that they could do? They're listening. They know they're perfectionists. They know they're not getting enough work product done because they're such perfectionists. What could they do now, besides re-listening to the podcast and all of your stories, because that's what I'm telling them to do more than once?
Mm-hmm.
What could they do now that will put them on the path to more success?
Yes. I think the first thing to do is to look at why you believe you're a perfectionist. Really investigate it, right? What is it that has you tweaking, right? And the easiest way to do that is to ask ourselves, why? Why, right? Oh, well,
Right.
I need it to be just right. Why? Well, I want people to show up. Why? Because if they don't show up, right, my business is going to be a failure, or people are not going to like me, right? Or whatever it is. We just get to go investigate what we're afraid of. And that's where we can do our work. And from there, it's committing to B-level work, to knowing that things are not supposed to be perfect, right? Because perfect is really just a thought, right? And choosing to stick to the time we've allotted and being okay with C-level work, right? I think about, right, how many podcasts and blog posts there are out in the world that are so not A+ material, right? Like of all the people that's producing. And imagine if all of those people waited until they were A+, right? Like you offered such a great example. You're like, yeah, not all my articles are A+. That's amazing. That means we get so much more, Joanne. So many more people get helped, and we contribute so much more when we're not striving for perfection. We're just like, this is good. Good is great.
Good is great. That is perfect. Well,
Right?
I want to thank Savanna Schiavo for being here today. Her topic, confidence, has been important, confidence and perfectionism. And I want everyone out there to commit to doing B-level work, at least for a day, especially if you're an extreme perfectionist, that, you won't go insane. Nobody's going to get upset with you. They won't yell at you, and you won't cry. Just give it a shot. So for all of you who want to know more about Savanna Schiavo, go to confidencewithsavanna.com, SAVANNA.com. And for those of you who are interested in some free stuff from my website, go to askjoannevictoria.com, and you can download the True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life, and you can get a free report, 5 Steps to Life Work Harmony. As I always say, re-listen to this podcast. You'll see the things that you've missed, and make sure you take notes by hand. I want to thank Savanna for being here today and gracing us not only with her presence, but with her intelligence. Thanks very much, Savanna.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com to listen to more podcasts. Check out Joanne's coaching programs and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Life-Work Harmony. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.